So it's 23rd of March, and every time I say that, I think I got to think of something different to say than "Good morning, everyone." Anyway, that's life, and I hope your spring is shaping up well. It's overcast, and it's probably going to be raining today here in Les Abdelone. But life is pretty good compared to what Ian's going through right now. Yeah, he's still struggling along to get around to Ushuaia now. A few things happening, the Doldrums are playing up, but Kirsten's still moving, which is good, and they're all having a bit of fun up there. So let's just get into the review. But the first thing I just want to explain, one of the things, I had a few comments from people that are non-sailors and want to know what a drogue is. That's the first thing. So when the boat's in a storm and it's running down in front of everything, you don't want it to turn at the bottom of the wave sideways to a breaking wave, because then the boat might roll over. So one of the things you can do is stream a long rope with an old tire on the back of it, or a rope and chain, or a drogue with a big sort of cone on it, or a series drogue with lots of little cones. And when this rope goes over the side, it basically creates drag, and that holds the back of the boat, into the way, or facing the waves, the back of the boat, and slows the boat down a bit as well. So that's the drogue, and there's incredible strain on the rope, really strong. I mean, like huge. And when you set it, you got to watch out you don't lose fingers and arms and legs and things like that. But it's quite effective, if you want to slow the boat down. Now, then you've got what happened with Ian. You have the hydrovane self-steering gear on the back of the boat, okay? And he's had two issues with the hydrovane. One's an ongoing one. There's a collar at the top of the hydrovane that's got to rotate. It's the one that holds the flip-flop vane that determines where the boat's going to go, and it rotates. And there is a securing pin, like a little tiny screw, grub screw, and that grub screw has to go in and you have to line it up, line up a hole and put the grub screw in. And when you've done that, it's like a keyway, and it stops the whole thing jumping up and secures it, right? And what it looks like happened when Ian's been playing with it, trying to sort it out over the last few days, he may not have lined up that pin in the hole, to go in. And that's why it's been able to jump and rotate freely. And what he would have done is just tightened up the grub screw to the collar, but the collar's just slipping under load. It's not in the securing pin. That was the first issue with the stuff he's had happening. The next one is that when he's bent, he talked about bending a shaft inside the mechanics of the vane. And the only way you can really do that is to overload the blade. And I suspected at the time, and I mentioned it, well, it might have hooked up in the drogue line, and it was impossible to tell because you're not there at the time. And what happens there is when the drogue is pulling, it goes a long way at the back of the boat. And if the boat slows down at any time to very slow, it doesn't go in reverse, but the line goes slack, and it's just in the water, just laying in the water behind the boat. And the hydrovane rudder or any wind vane rudder can go down and get the wrong side of that line. And as soon as it pulls tight again, it loads the rudder up. Okay, and the systems are not designed to take that kind of pressure. And anyway, in the end, that must have happened a few times, to the point that it just snapped the rudder. It just completely broke the rudder in half. The shaft and everything still appears to be okay there, but the rudder is snapped in half. And so that was it for his hydrovane, because you can't put the new rudder on in those sort of conditions. But also his emergency electric autopilot connects to a little tiller on the hydrovane, and it steers the boat through the hydrovane rudder. But now that rudder's broken, you can't use his electric autopilot. So it means he's got a hand steer. And that's not so bad, but you've got to remember yesterday, Ian had a lot of adrenaline rushes, in the peak of the storm. He was okay. He was well rested and everything, and it's okay. But believe me, I know what adrenaline is. And once that washes out through your body, you get very, very tired. So when the weather got a bit better, he was wearing down a little bit, and they realized he had to hand steer, and he hand steered as long as he could last night. But he's eventually got to stop and get rest, and that's why he's seeing those funny tracks there. So let's get down to Ian. Nothing else really exciting happening on the bits and pieces, but we'll talk about Ian first, and then we'll go to the leaderboard and talk about the leaders and bits and pieces. So okay, so Ian's taking a little bit longer to get around than we had originally anticipated. So the weather's still, pretty average. He's probably getting there at the moment. He's getting, 30 knots, even gusting 40. Okay, and there's more heavy weather coming, because normally after this one there's a bit of a break. but it depends where he's going to get to. So you can see pretty clearly his track is all over the place while he's resting and so on. He actually rounded Cape Horn early hours this morning, about 5 o'clock this morning UTC, and that's a big moment for Ian. So well done. He was about 19 miles off, so he wouldn't have seen it then, but he's coming up pretty steeply now. So at the moment, he's doing 4.2 knots. I'd suggest he's probably hand steering now because it's a straight course. And part of the intention was to possibly get behind Cape Horn here and take up the anchorage. But this weather's going to hold pretty windy for a while, and I'd say he's going to get blown past it. So the first thing we'll look at is just the close-in detailed weather as we go through. I'll drop it back one so you can see what's happening. There's a little respite here where it's just dropping back probably to, still 20, 25 knots or so on. It's still blowing from the west, which is kind of okay, but Ian's going to have to tighten up to get there at that rate. He's currently from the anchorage. He is 13 miles out, so it's about 3 hours. He may try it, but as he gets closer, he's going to have to, if he ends up over here somewhere, he's going to have to come back to windward, and it may be better for him. It's still nighttime over there. It may be better for him to actually just keep going and get into this calm weather and calm water up here. But to give you an idea of the options, here's Porter Williams, which is the first settlement, and there's quite a lot of things there, but he really wants to go over here to Ushuaia, and the track for that is to come up through here. It's pretty clear between the big bits, and then make your way along this way to get into get his repairs done. And if we, to give you a scale perspective, some of this stuff, this is like 5 miles across, so you can even sail into there, or you can motor. It's 4 miles across up here, so there's quite a big, it's not like a little river or anything. You could actually sail if the weather is coming from the right way. So for now, we'll come back to Ian's weather so you can see what's going on here. Okay, so it's a westerly still. This is a few hours up, and here's the bad news. There's a bit of a northeasterly coming, so Ian doesn't like sailing to weather. So he's actually got about 12 hours. If we come back here, there's 8 o'clock. He's got a good favourable wind direction, but plenty of breeze. And then there's 12 hours there. He's got 12 hours at 5 knots would be 60 miles. So he could be a long way up here by then if he keeps going for it. And he may well do that. Jade, his manager, has picked up monitoring and looking after Ian. So Jade's giving him these weather updates and also organising logistics in Ushuaia to make it all happen. We're on standby to help wherever we want. We cancelled the code orange because the boat is in perfect condition. He's torn his dodger, but that's about all. And he's pretty reasonable as well. So, it's just you don't have a wind vane, and it's not the end of the world. It makes it uncomfortable and challenging, but he should be safe. He estimates he's got 40, just over 40 litres of fuel, could be a bit more. And that's about 10 hours of motoring as well. And all his comms and satellite communications and everything else on board is okay. So that's why we cancelled the code orange last night at about midnight. So moving along, we come up to, you can see here, this is all very light stuff, and he could have been okay there. So this is about 14 hours, and 14 hours, as I say, with that breeze, he could be okay, but then it gets quiet. And he can still sail in this. This is probably 15 knots of wind. If he comes up here, he could head across this way or whatever. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. It's not perfect downhill sailing, but it's not bad either. Then it gets a bit stronger, a bit more challenging. So, and it doesn't make the anchorage any good in Cape Horn either. The wind is going to blow from the north. So this is Cape Horn here, and it's on the other side. So, he's got lots of things to think about as it's going, in the next day or two. So this is on the 24th. The good news is, and I'll just show you this one, when you get round the corner of Cape Horn, you can see there's it's just really well protected from most wind directions, and the sea state drops right off completely. So it's a lot easier if you've got to go to windward and it's only 1 meter seas. That's a lot more achievable than if there's 3 meter seas or something like that. And this is less than a meter in here. If you can get in here, there's places you can hide maybe and so on. This is about 1.5 to 2 meters in here. and no matter what happens to the wind, it's usually pretty constant. So he'll be looking forward to some calm seas anyway, I know that for sure. So generally speaking, Ian's not out of the woodwork yet. It's not dangerous, but it's challenging and it's demanding. He's going to have to work hard to get where he wants to go and make some important decisions. But Jade and the team are onto that as well. So that's probably enough for Ian now, just to put it into perspective where he is. Let's have a look at the leaderboard before we get up to work out what's going on with the rest of the fleet. So Kirsten's got 3,163 to go, and Abelish has got 3,489, so near enough to 500 versus 150. So is it right? Hang on. 150, 250, 350, 450. So about 300 and something, 350 miles behind is Abelish. So he's taken out a bit on Kirsten. You can see he's done about 25 miles extra on Kirsten for the last 24 hours. That's a bit better than we thought. So Kirsten's been able to sail, which is kind of good. Captain Goog, 4,654 to go to the finish, which is not too bad. He's about 1,000 and a few hundred behind Kirsten. So and then if we come back to Chichester class, look at Simon, 3,585. So he's a few hundred miles behind Kirsten and Abelish. Not too bad at all. And Jeremy's got nearly just under 6,000 miles to go to the finish. So he did 130 miles yesterday. So there we go. Get rid of that. We come down here, drop it back a bit, get rid of this one, come back to real-time weather, and look at Jeremy. I put Jeremy on this weather alert. It's not really severe. It's going to gust up to 50 knots shortly, and it's started to kick in right now. And he's been doing 5.6 knots, 130 nautical miles in the last 24 hours, and you'll see what happens to this northwesterly. It's going to start to pick up into a system, and it's going to come over the top of him. And by the time it gets to there, that's sort of 30-something knots forecast and gusting 45s, and it actually peaks up to 50. And it depends how close he gets to the middle. You can just see there, he just clips the top edge. I told him yesterday on the SoundCloud, if you had heard it, it was quite a funny call because it's all a bit boring. He wasn't bored and I wasn't bored, but it was funny because there's not a lot to talk about when it's trade wind sailing. So we had a few laughs about that. But anyway, that's changed now. He's going to get a kick from behind, which will push him along, and he's right on the edge of this blue, and that's where it'll blow about 50 knots. But it's only for a few hours. It'll blow hard for a few hours, and then he's straight across it. So we just alerted him to that fact. It's not a squall. It's actually a pressure system, a low pressure coming through. So he's aware of that, and he'll enjoy the sailing still. So it's going to push him in the right direction. So that'll keep his speed up. He'll do 150 plus for the next 24 hours. So that's over past just after 24 hours, and then he's going to run along the edge of this. He'll be up here somewhere, but he's going to, if that center comes over the top of him, center of the high, right next to the low, yep, it's going to slow him down. So he's going to park for a while. So we get one and a half days of good weather. Then he's going to park for a bit, and then he's got some headwinds coming. So we'll see how bad this looks and the thing. Yeah, it's going to be there for a while. He's going to be challenged with that. So next day's okay. After that, first half is okay, and then he's going to go quiet, and then he's going to get light headwinds. So a bit of a mixed bag. And Captain Goog, he's been on a roll, but he's just coming into a hole. He's on this system here, so it's been quite good for him. Been sailing quite well. He'd be happy with that. His temperatures will be getting warmer. And as we said yesterday, he might ride this little band. It's still there. You can see that little band of breeze is actually moving forward with him. So I think he'll be okay with that. That's rolling okay. Yeah, it's a mixed bag going light. He's going to get hooked up in that. So, but I think he's going to be up here somewhere. He might be okay. It's a bit borderline, but I think he'll probably be okay. He'll be sailing forwards, having a lovely time, listening to music, cooking his bread and cakes and all that sort of stuff, and enjoying life generally. Boat's in good condition. He's a happy chap. Usually, everything's looking pretty cool. So, and I think I forget when he calls in. Yeah, today, this afternoon, late. So we'll chat. Oh, okay. So you want to listen to Kirsten's SoundCloud? She called in, and Kirsten really wears her emotions on her shoulder. Okay, she's down. She thinks that Abolish is like a week ahead of her, and all this sort of stuff. And she's racing, quite depressed about being in the Doldrums, but she got there quick, and she's actually made some progress, which is quite good. That's what Doldrums are all about. She's still doing 4.9 knots. That's what I was saying. It looks as if she's sitting in nothing. If we pick that up, it looks as if she should be completely becalmed, but she's not, because there's all these local weather systems, and this is really just impossible to pick. So Kirsten's doing really well. She's done 100 miles in the day, which is really good. Abolish, that bridge has sort of disappeared a bit, but he's still sailing as well. Did 127 nautical miles and doing 5.3 at the moment. So it looks like he's got a light headwind there. That could be the case. The sea state will be down to like 0. It'll be half a meter or something like that. And Simon's doing his stuff, 5.1, just still sailing up in this trade wind. 135 nautical miles, what we suggested. He's just boring in on them and catching up pretty quick to Abolish. So I'm going to leave it large scale if I can pull this down now. Let's go up here so I can get to the bits. And wrong weather. That makes it sense. I fall for that trap all the time. Okay, that explains why Kirsten's sailing. You can actually see it. There is an airflow there, which is good to see. And that explains Abolish as well. He's got this little bridge. So cancel my previous description. I forgot to get the real-time weather. And Simon's got a breeze, but it is going light. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so now just clicking it through every hour. Simon's still got generally light. Kirsten's just hanging in there, but the breeze is coming down from the north. That's a good sign. And Abolish is running out of his bridge a little bit as he goes up. Going to have light headwinds, but that favours him as well. Will this be accurate or not? Who knows? But that's what it's saying. And Simon's still got a reasonable breeze there. He's got slightly more weight to the wind than Abolish, so he'll probably pick up another 20 miles, 25 miles in the day in the next 24 hours. So there goes 24 hours out, and Kirsten's started to run out of breeze there. Abolish has still got breeze, and Simon's got plenty of breeze. He'll ride that up. He'll be enjoying that. Okay, so day 2, still fluffing around for Kirsten's, not looking in as good a position as Abolish. How far away to the trades? Let's say they're there. They were 350 yesterday. Now they're about 275. So she's got about 275 to go. And what about Abolish? Looking a little bit closer. Yeah, so even here, he's going to come under the influence of that if that keeps coming down. It's only 227, so 50 miles closer, maybe even more. So it's definitely, this is where the positive weather is for the Doldrums at the moment. Anyway, I think that's probably about enough for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like and join up if you're on YouTube. If you're there, I've got a 199 day with an A because I think I had the wrong number on it yesterday. That's just me doing